Okay, back again. I'm going to do some more fun stuff. We're going to work on problem 10.12. This is our do-over. And this one is very interesting too. I'm going to clear the screen here. I guess it doesn't do that here. That's all right. Okay. So in 10.12, we're going to look at some fun data from the late 1960s through the early 1970s. And the way they have your data set up, it has data marked January through the end of March, April through the end of June, or excuse me, through the end of May, and so on. That's actually called quarterly data, okay? They can dress it up and call it whatever they want. That's quarterly data. So we're going to attack it as such. So we are going to put in DIS1, referring to disorder, assigns scan. It's my file called disorder.txt. And enter. So this is a time series. So I'm going to, instead of just using regular data, or considering it as regular data, I'm going to convert it to a time series. All right, so we're going to bring in the data as it stands. It's just a numeric vector at the moment. I want it to be a time series. So time series have start dates. So it starts at the beginning of 1968. The frequency is 4 since it's quarterly data. Okay? And we want to plot a time series. So I'm going to say plot.ts. And we are going to say dis1.ts. And the Y label is arrests. Now, when you have a time series, let me just do one more thing. It automatically puts in the date structure as your ticks on the x-axis, but I'm going to give it the a string character. Hang on a minute. Let me just scoot this up a little bit if it'll let me. Ah, there it is. Okay. So I put in year because I wanted to show year. I have number of arrests on the side, which is what I wanted. And I still want to have a title on there. So let's scoot back over here. And I have title, number of arrests in late 1960s through early 1970s. Okay, and let's look at the chart for a minute. There's some really interesting things in here, at least from my point of view. And again, you may want to refer back to the actual data itself for comparison purposes. Let's see if I can, let's just list the data. Okay, good. All right, so if you look at quarter 2 in 1968, so that would be April, May, and June of 1968. Okay, what was going on in that time period? Well, in April of 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was shot. Later on that month, so did Bobby Kennedy. Okay, so they were dying. There was all kind of unrest going on there. It was, I can barely remember it. I was about 7 at the time, but I remember my parents were pretty agitated about that. Okay, let's look at this time period right here. In May of 1970, so that's quarter 2 of 1970. So quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 1970, again, a lot of unrest dealing with the Vietnam War. In May of 1970, the Kent State, 4 students were shot then. In 71, there was another peak, a lot more protests for the Vietnam War, and then things just kind of dropped off after that. But second quarter of 68, that was the big thing. So yeah, that was pretty intense at that point of time. I just thought that was, for me, that was very interesting. Now, one thing, and kind of think about this too, when you analyze data, and this is true for any kind of concept, put it in the perspective of the time and in the concept that you're working with. So this is history. This is in the United States, arrests. So you have to kind of look at the concept that you're working with. What was going on at that time? In a sense, you have to be a data detective. That's very important. So think about that when you analyze your data set. Okay? Thanks.